A buddy had the audacity the other day to ask who Garrett Benge was. Well, he's Carson's brother from the same mother that hoisted up a Big 12 tournament championship. I'm ready for Carson to do the same as big brother Garrett, and the way he's playing, he's doing the daggone thing.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we're partially brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Do not miss out on your opportunity. Use a code LOCKEDONCalls to get $20 off your first purchase. Meanwhile, we're going to get rolling right into baseball. Yes, there is some frustration from late last night, but the late night before that featured Carson Benge. That's right. The other day, I said Garrett Benge a few times, which did make me kind of retrace some of the steps. And I went back and I realized that in 2017, big brother Garrett Benge helped win Oklahoma State a Big 12 tournament title. Can Carson muster up the strength to do the same thing? Well, him individually thus far seems to be the case. Him and Zach Ehrhard have been kind of performing at a different level. But let's circle back. The game one that we made sure to get done against Taco, Reckham, Tech, it went well. Not only did it go well, but it kind of revalidated who Carson Benge is. The two-way player up for the John O'Rood Award, and he very well could win the daggone thing. He went over 6 innings, only gave up 3 hits, 1 earned run with 10 strikeouts. That performance on the mound in and of itself was the reason we were in the game. And then he decides to bring his big boy baseball bat with him, going 2 for 4. And in that process, driving in 2 runs. And realistically, he's kind of putting on the Superman cape and making something happen. Alan Forsythe had a good game. Nolan Schubert had a pretty good game. Tyler Wolfert's been stepping in and doing some pretty big things. Tommy Molsky struggled a little bit, but Robert Kranz was able to come in and shut it down. But there's 2 for 5. And then again last night, which we'll touch on here in a bit. But last night, Carson Benge gave us the lead late in the game, a lead that we were unable to hold on to, but that had nothing to do with Carson Benge. So as much as I'm frustrated about last night, and I'm super excited about the previous night, this is just a time to take pause and realize what we're watching with Carson Benge. This is very, very, very similar, as we've mentioned previously, with Nolan McLean, a two-way player that could legitimately do either. You put him in the outfield, he was an insane asset to have out there with a massive arm, big bat. But I think one of the differences between Benge and McLean, even though they're pretty reminiscent of each other, is the performances on the mound are obviously comparable. But I think Carson Benge has a little bit more ability to singles, right? Nolan was a big stick that hit a lot of deep shots. He wasn't necessarily a guy that could piece you up, just like Zach Ehrhard. Zach Ehrhard is that guy that can piece you up, but he's also dropping double-digit home runs. Them teaming up in game one against Texas Tech is, in fact, what got everything started, and it got us, launching in the right direction. And then he pitches, 6 innings of almost pure domination. The defense was able to hold up. We were able to kind of string some things together early and then keep it at bay for the remainder of the game. This is an appreciation time for Carson Benge. And hopefully he, alongside his teammates, can muster up enough strength to win ourselves another Big 12 title just like his brother did. It is phenomenal that we get at least a player or two like this, right, every single season. Jerron Watts Brown just had some pretty cool highlights in the majors, the blue Blue Jays farm team. This is a rare sight that we get to see. And the family, the loyalty, the cowboy culture, right? That's even applicable in the sport of baseball. And we're getting to witness one of those guys that are going to end up playing at the next level. So even if you're not a massive baseball fan, we need to take care of business today so that way we can get ourselves in a position that if you haven't had the opportunity to watch Carson Benge live, you got to get out. We got to get this thing done so we guarantee hosting a regional. O'Brate was built for hosting Superbs. And I see how the rest of the staff can go really deep, but as last night indicated, sometimes that's somewhat insignificant. The bats have been pretty nice. Zach Ehrhard, I believe, is on a 15 or 16 game hitting streak. I know it's 15. It might even be 16. And then throughout the course of this last couple games, Carson Benge has shown up with several RBIs and home runs and big-time strikeouts, double-digit strikeouts. He's performing this Superman act. And right now, Zach Ehrhard is his Robin. Now we need somebody else to step up to the plate. And we'll talk about that and the fiasco that kind of transpired last night, right? You could blame a lot of things, all right? But to me, let's go over what it could potentially be. And I obviously want your opinion as well. But before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, I have to bring you back into the fold with FanDuel. It's winner take all time, whether it be the NBA or the NHL. FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home the biggest W you need right here, right now. New customers get $150 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's 150 bones back in your wallet, in your pocket, that you can then use to spend on money lines, overs, unders, player props, point spreads, NHL, NBA, who's going to win the Heisman, and more. Make sure you visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Make sure you visit FanDuel.com today. All right, so what happened last night was, I'll be honest with you, I fell asleep. I made the fun little drive back from Oklahoma to the great state of Colorado. And I fell asleep before the game even started. So I had to kind of rewatch some stuff. But I will tell you, when I woke up, of course, the first thing I did was look at my phone. And the majority of the messaging was, why is he still in the game? Why are we doing this? Why did we let him give up that many runs? Why did we load the bases on purpose there? Well, that didn't work out. That's what the messages were entailing, which clearly indicates this was another instance where Rob Walton got in his own way, from what I could gather. Now, I want your opinion, because I did have a couple people tell me that, Rob Walton maybe left Phillips in a little bit too long. Maybe he mismanaged the O'Toole transition there after Evans started struggling a little bit as well. I guess Lane Forsythe getting picked off at third by the catcher was a pretty debilitating moment in the game. Statistically speaking, it appears as though Gabe Davis had a decent outing, going 3 1/3. The 3 walks are what kill you, but the three Ks, not really giving up a lot in the runs department. And realistically speaking, he was hovering around the 55, 56 pitch range when it was all said and done, which means he should have some availability today. Now, let's go into today. We have to beat Texas Tech to stay alive to get another shot at UCF. It looks like the Boomer Gooner squad up the road there is going to march their way onto the title game. It needs to be us that meets them, because we're the only team with the staff good enough and deep enough to beat them. But Gabe Davis only threw like 55 pitches. He can go again. Ryan Bogus, Evan O'Toole, Brendan Phillips, that did not work out. That whole kind of, Evan O'Toole did okay for a little while. All right. But 6 hits is not ideal. Ryan Bogus coming in, giving up 4 hits, not ideal. When you have, 7 walks? 7 walks it's going to be difficult to win enough to make sure that you're ahead at the end of the game. So let's think about today. Today, Rob Walton has to make a decision because Josh did make a comment in regards to not wanting to pitch Sam Garcia on just 5 days rest. If that is the case, which I don't necessarily agree with, it's tournament time, buddy. But if you want to make sure that you get the extra day of rest for Sam Garcia, or at least kind of prolong as long as you can, then that means we're now in a position where you have to win. So you have to start Brian Holliday. Now, I love the fact that they're doing this with Sunday now being open for the selection show and all that. But at the same time, playing at midnight, 1 a.m. stuff is for the birds. And we're going to be at it yet again. We got a fairly late one here in a couple hours. We got to take care of business there to even get to the late game, which inevitably seems to want to take us to 1 a.m. no matter what happens. Maybe you give Drew another shot. He was somebody that was kind of pegged to be a starter. Maybe Drew Blake is the answer to start, and then it gives you some flexibility with your middle reliever roles, but it's a must win. And if you've got to give Sam Garcia a little bit more time, then it's going to be Brian Holliday. It has to be Brian Holliday. Of course, you want to save your ace for later on, but if you don't win here, it doesn't matter. And we do have to win, actually, because ranked right there, 16, 17, there's some people that have us registered as one of the 16 regional host sites, which should happen. But we got to take care of business too. We can't just hand this thing on a silver platter to OU or anybody else. But if anybody still has the pitching depth and staff and talent to come back through the loser side of this bracket and win, it is us. Sometimes it's about the mismanagement. It's so annoying. It's so frustrating. But I'm not going to stand on that soapbox. You've heard me talk about this one thing before. My only issue with Rob Walton is waiting too long to pull a guy, waiting too long to get guys warmed up, going opposite of some of the righty-lefty matchups. And, yeah, his timing on things just blows my ever-loving mind because he's a genius. But, Ryan Uri, we'll see what the development looks like. But Ryan Bogus is pretty much the same, right? Evan O'Toole hasn't maybe got enough time with Rob. Maybe there's an excuse there. I don't know. I would say he has, but maybe not. Sam Garcia is young. That's going to be beneficial moving forward. But, Gabe Davis was somebody who kind of kept us in the game late. But you got to win this game. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing Gabe Davis back in today as like a middle reliever role. Start Sam. It would be ideal. But if you can't start Sam because you need an extra day, then you got to start Brian. If you don't start Brian, maybe you go with a Drew scenario. But if you do that, that's a little bit risky. He's got to be on a super, super short leash if you're going to go with Drew Blake in that scenario. But we've got some flexibility here. Aiden Miola looking pretty good. And then Tyler Wolfert, when he does get in the game, he seems to deliver pretty daggone well. It's nice having that ability at third base, right? Garrett Benge has some of that ability at third base. So, yes, I mistakenly kept referring to Carson as Garrett the other day. But go back and remember, Garrett was the JUCO National Player of the Year at Cali County before he came to Oklahoma State, right? Comes to Oklahoma State, started in all 62, 63 games at third base. He was batting over 500 coming into Oklahoma State, and then again helps us get to this title. But Rob Walton, he can get the who's who. He can get the best dudes to Stillwater, but it's kind of hit and miss on if they develop, and then it's very hit and miss on if they're going to be managed the right way, a.k.a. put in at the wrong times, letting a kid give up multiple runs. Like, that's the thing, is I was having this conversation with somebody earlier, doing some pitching coaching for the last decade almost. You can typically see when your kid's struggling. Like, you know what his go-to pitches are. You know how he grips the ball. You know how his slider typically moves. You understand that his curveball maybe is a little bit more of a sweep than a true 12-6. And if he's losing command or he's spiking certain pitches in certain ways, you know that it's coming off his finger wrong. Or if he's, opening his hips too early and not getting off the mound enough, you know that that's why his ball's trailing. And for you to look at this stuff and not physically see the telltale signs of, oh, I know my guy, that's not a good sign. That means he's not feeling this. That means he's not doing this right. That means he's blah, blah, blah. You typically know the telltale signs of where you're having issues. Once again, you do want to test the mettle of dudes, right? You want to put these guys in very difficult situations, but there's a time and a place for everything. We've been hearing that since we were little kids, right? There's time and a place for everything. And when you're competing for a daggone championship, both regular season and the Big 12 tournament title, it's not a time to get cutesy-tootsie. And you don't even have to do the analytical side of the game. You don't have to use the most technologically advanced equipment. You don't have to. You can be super old school, but if you're going to be super old school, you also got to see the telltale signs and realize the situation that you're in. And that is my frustration with Rob Walton. I said I wasn't going to jump on this daggone box, but I got on it anyways. I do apologize. It's okay. We're going to shift to the sport that seems to be the savior around this time of year, which is, in fact, softball. But you already know, before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, do not deal with the craziness of tickets when you don't have to. The hotels and getting the pre-planned flights and rentals and who's going to go where, all of that is already stressful enough. Take the rest of the guesswork out of buying any tickets with Gametime. The last-minute killer deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee takes all the guesswork out, right? That's the whole objective here. And the last-minute tickets give you the capability to get the pricing the best. Not only all the way up to the beginning of the game, but even as the game progresses an hour into it, the price gets even better. The zone deals save you even more if you choose a section and let Gametime choose the seat. My favorite part is the panoramic view from the seat in the app before you purchase. Your purchase is also covered by the Gametime ticket coverage. It's the most flexible customer service policy in the game. So take the guesswork out of you buying any kind of ticket, especially if it's NBA or NHL right now with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, make sure you create that account, redeem that code, LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Lowest price, guaranteed. What's guaranteed is softball being successful. Of course they are. Kenny Gajewski has the ability right here to continue this crazy following that's starting to form around Oklahoma State softball. Put up the stadium, Chad. And also be ready to make some more moves, Chad. Because I don't know if you've looked at the recent golf stuff, but 13th, 14th, 15th in the national championships, not acceptable. You know it. If John Smith can basically have the need to move on to do what's best for Oklahoma State after a pretty successful season, then Alan Bratton must be held to the same standard. We don't have to worry about it with Kenny Gajewski. Kenny Gajewski's going to handle business. Kenny Gajewski already handled business, which is why we were undefeated in the regional to get to this point where we get to take on Arizona, which will be a Big 12 softball member. Well, here pretty daggone quick. So this is going to be a fun one. What's not fun is this golf scenario. And I know we just went through a situation firing a basketball coach and spending a decent amount of money we spent a lot of money to get rid of one and to bring in another. Okay. And then you had to do the same thing in wrestling, not the firing part, right? John Smith retires. Everyone assumes, right, what's going to happen is we're going to make the easy, peaceful transition to Coleman Scott. That doesn't happen, but it's okay because the David Taylor effect is real. We got another wrestler to bring in, but we're going to save that for another episode. Football takes on Arizona. Cannot wait for it. Baseball, if we win, then we've got the 5:30 game. We got an all-nighter because then we'll play right after that. Taking on Texas Tech again, game we should win, followed by UCF, which is going to be a nice little opportunity of redemption, which we need to take it. UCF, I put out a tweet earlier. They're becoming a thorn in our side. Right? Iowa State's always been that squad that you could almost guarantee they would find a way to screw up, I almost cursed, a really good season. Right? The times we're good enough to play for titles and trophies are the random times that Iowa State, and it doesn't matter what their record is, they're just going to pop in whatever sport and be like, ha, gotcha. That is starting to become UCF. All right? I don't like it. I don't like it. I guess if there's going to be a little bit of natural animosity building up, this is how you do it. UCF is following the right recipe to becoming an irritation for Oklahoma State country. They did it in football, they did it in basketball, and they just did it last night in baseball. Now, we did, beat them pretty well in the series, but that don't matter because we didn't win the Big 12 season championship. So now we got to win this one. You guys, let me know down in the comment section what you think we're going to roll with today on the mound. Would you throw a wild card like Drew Blake? Would you go on 5 days rest for Sam Garcia? Would you save Sam for game 2 or later tomorrow and go with the ace and Brian Holliday and just ensure or do what you can to ensure you get this first dub? I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I would personally, I think, go with Sam Garcia, even on 5 days rest, because it is a tournament that's going to become somewhat normal. But, it is a must win. So the argument for Brian Holliday makes a lot of sense. And then if you went with somebody, that's a little bit more obscure, then you're clearly planning on winning game 1, right? If you, let's say you started Drew Blake, you're saving Brian Holliday and Sam Garcia for the anticipatory, next couple games. I will say this, though, whomever gets thrown out there, let's not let them get knocked around. Let's not load the bases with multiple walks. Let's not shoot ourselves in the foot when we're on the mound. All right, that would be preferable. So y'all let me know down in the section of the comments. I appreciate you. I think that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, y'all know the drill. God bless. Go Pokes. And thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Hit the like button. Don't cost you nothing. If you dislike it, hit that thing too, because that's all right. All right. Different strokes for different peoples and different boats. That's how that goes. My podcasting people out there, do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave the reviews. All right, y'all. Share, comment, subscribe. Sharing is caring. Later, my taters.